We're back out here at the big lake once again, and today I've got some special tips and cheats so that when the Prespawn comes to your area, you'll be ready to head out to the lake and start catching those toads. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Oh, I missed it. Come on back for it, buddy. Come back for it. Okay. Got him that time. That was pretty cool. I hope I got that on video. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and as you've heard me say in the past few videos, in South Mississippi, the Prespawn is in full swing. We've got anglers all over the place out here because the fishing is so good, even though it's the middle of the week. You've got bass busting, they're chasing bait fish, they're feeding up for the spawn, and right now is probably the best and easiest time to catch some really nice quality bass. Possibly even your PB. You know, as we lead into the spawn, and those bass get bigger and bigger and bigger as they feed up more and more. Now, the thing about it is everybody can see where those bass are. You don't need live scope. All you need are your own eyeballs because they're busting up everywhere. They're chasing bait fish. All you've got to do is, look, and there those bass are. That means you're going to have some competition for some really heated spots. Unfortunately, that means that those bass can get accustomed and attuned to various things and just tune everything out and concentrate solely on the bait fish or crawfish that they are chasing. They hear the sonar pings, they hear the trolling motors, they hear the rattle of the baits or whatever. They know it's not food. They know when they hear those things to just tune it right out and focus on the bait fish in front of them. So how do we kind of get them out of that mode? What are some of the things that we can do to take advantage of the bonanza that is out there during the Prespawn? I do it in a very specific way, and that is I start with a plan in my head. I go out to the lake, I have a plan in my head. And in the past few times it was those bass are feeding on bluegill and they're feeding on crawl. So you saw the video where I did the bitsy bug trick with the half stick bait trailer, and I was very successful fishing that. I caught so many fish in a single day that I lost count. It was amazing. That type of day that you only have once a year, once every other year, that you just remember for a long time. It was great. So whenever I came out to the lake past couple of days after that, I had the same kind of thing in mind. Those bass are feeding on crawl, those bass are feeding on bluegill. So I kept that mentality in mind, kept that bitsy bug jig on there, and I tied on a watermelon green caffeine shad. Now I was still able to get some nice fish on that bitsy bug, but it kind of died off and it wasn't really having the impact that I knew was out there. So I switched to fishing that caffeine shad, and again I was able to get some nice fish. I caught a really nice fish just letting it sit on the bottom, and I ended up with about a 2.25 pound fish just letting that bait sit right there on the bottom and dead stick. I didn't even have my hand on the rod. I was messing with the trolling motor at the time, and when I went to pick the rod back up, that fish was there. It was great. It was a lot of fun to catch that fish. But like I said, you've got to be able to adjust. And today when I came out, well, it seemed like they had moved completely away from that crawl and bluegill bite. Now, a lot of anglers out here are probably thinking the same thing. They're throwing red, they're throwing brown, they're throwing bottom bouncing techniques like jigs and Texas rigs, and that's what I'm seeing whenever I look out at the other anglers. That's what they're fishing. They're parked in one spot, they're seeing those bass jump, and they're trying to fish and snipe in that area. And I'm not seeing a lot of guys have a lot of success. So the first thing I said to myself is, well, if the bass are not feeding on bluegill or crawl, what is it that they are feeding on? So I watched, and I saw that the bass were actually chasing small schools of minnow and shad. So I changed from a watermelon caffeine shad to this white cream soft plastic jerkbait. And I'm telling you what, that small change made all the difference in the world. I went from getting one bite, I think, this morning to, in succession, 3-4 quick bites, all nice quality fish. I see bass busting, I would see them swirling, I would fire this in there, and I'm telling you what, I would get some really great fish. So that was a lot of fun. That told me I was on the right track, that they had moved from feeding on craw and bluegill and other sunfish to feeding on minnow and shad. Now, bass can be fickle and they'll change their minds a lot. Even when the bluegill and the crawfish are right there, if they want to feed on shad, who knows? They're going to start feeding on the shad. But I also had a feeling, watching those bass bust up, that we were on the verge of something special, and that is topwater season, right? The first topwater bites of the year. And that's something all anglers look for. So you know what I had to do? I had to tie on a spook. Well, in this case, it's a Yozuri walking bait in a bone color, but this is what I tied on to go after those swirling fish, those fish that were chasing bait. And it was really cool to see them, you know, a whole cloud of bait swirling under my boat being chased by bass. And I was like, you know what? Topwater's got to be the deal. Today has got to be the day that I get my first topwater fish. Lo and behold, I absolutely did. Tells me I might need to put the boy howdy on. Come on, go after it. Got him. That worked. Come on, buddy. Oh, he T-boned it too. Look at this beautiful bass. Oh yeah, he T-boned it. Beautiful, beautiful bass. First topwater fish of 2024. So the topwater bite was officially on. And I didn't even take this rod out of my hand for the rest of the day. As just like the other day with the Bitsy Bug jig and that stick bait, well, this is exactly what they wanted. They keyed in on this, and I caught fish after fish, including some really, really nice fish. I caught anything from, I think, a half a pounder squeak might have been the smallest thing that I caught, all the way up to a fish that was well over 4 pounds. There we go. Oh yeah, that's a giant. That's a giant, kids. That is a giant. You get your butt over here. He's bleeding a little bit, so we got to get him back in the water. That's about a 4.5 pound 5 bass. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous, huge fish. So that beautiful 4 pound plus fish was amazing, right? That meant that those fish are active and that they're really feeding, ready to bust up on some topwater. Everybody loves topwater. And right now, middle of February, is perfect topwater time here in South Mississippi. Now, what am I doing? Well, I'm fishing it with braid. I've got 30 pound braid, and I'm fishing it to a small fluorocarbon leader. Just because I want those fish. They're pretty line shy right now. We've got a lot of anglers out here, so I'm not going to risk it. A small fluorocarbon leader, even though it sinks a little bit, is not going to hurt me given the buoyancy of this bait. And as many fish as I caught today doing this, obviously it didn't. Now I'm fishing braid and not monofilament or fluorocarbon, obviously because it floats, but you guys have to remember, I fish some pretty thick slop. There's some pretty, nasty hydrilla, nasty milfoil and grass out here all over the place. Doesn't matter that it's still winter, it's still choked with vegetation, so that's why I'm fishing the heavier braid. A 7-foot medium heavy rod with a 7:1 gear ratio reel. That was perfect. It's my do-it-all setup. This got me exactly what I needed to get. Now, let's go out on the water, and I'm going to show you just exactly how I was fishing this and the results that I was having with it. All right, what I'm doing when I'm working this walking bait, this Yozuri walking bait, or a spook or anything else, you just cast it out there, letting it hit, and I'm going to let the rings dissipate for a few seconds until they're good and far apart. And then I'm giving it a few twitches, and I'm going to let it sit there. A few more twitches, and I'm going to let it sit there. A couple of good wide pops, and I'm going to let it sit there. I'm varying up what I'm doing with the retrieve, and that's what I've been getting hit on today. A lot of times I've been getting bites just leaving it sit there. They'll come up, they'll hit it, they'll miss it, and then they'll come up and hit it again. So that's what's been working. So I wasn't burning it across the top of the water. And the cool, crazy thing about it is I could work that spook, that walking bait, for just a few times and then let it pause. And sometimes I let it pause excruciatingly long. I would let it pause for a long time. And those bass would come up and bust on it. Sometimes they hit it when I was working it, and if they didn't get it, which was often, topwater's nature of the beast, you're going to lose a lot of fish. Although today I was fortunate that I did not. But when they come up and they would bust on that bait and they would miss it, I would kill it instantly and let it sit there. And every single time they would come back and they would hit that bait again, and I would end up eventually hooking them. So they were really, really aggressive. So bear that in mind when you're working a topwater bait. It doesn't have to be a spook, but whenever you're working a topwater bait and you get them to blow up on it, they miss it, kill it instantly. Give it a few seconds, maybe a couple light twitches to see if you can get them interested in it again. And I'm telling you, they will come back to that bait. They will bust on it again. As a matter of fact, they were so aggressive that I actually had the most amazing catch that I've had in a long time. And it really cemented how active and how ferocious those fish were attacking my bait today. But they are stacked right up on this point right here. Oops, you missed it. There, I got him. He came back for it. When they miss it, I just leave it sit. Ooh, that feels pretty good. That's a toad. That's a good toad right there. He's spinning my boat in circles. That's a good toad right there, kids. Let's see what I got. Let's see what I got here. Oh yeah, he's good. Oh, look at that. That's amazing. That is amazing right there. I doubled up. That's amazing. Oops, that's when you know the fishing is good. That right there is when you know the fishing is good. When you catch two on one cast. So, hang on, I'll come back to you, kid. 2-pound bass. Right at a 2-pound bass. Alright, thank you, buddy. And then we're going to come here. He's the smaller one, but I got him better. Little 1¼ pound bass. Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Alright, way to get that twofer. Oops. So the rare double up on a topwater. On an A-rig, you can get a double up quite often. But I got a double up on a topwater. 2 fish at once. How cool is that? So just keep it in mind, right? Whenever you dial it in, whenever you focus on exactly what those fish are after, because when it's super pressured, those bass are going to be laser focused on one thing and only one thing. You can see them busting up. You can throw your lures all over the place in that cloud of bass and bait fish, and they'll totally ignore it. You have to key in on exactly what it is that they are after. And once you do that, boom, it is on, and you will catch fish after fish after fish. For me, today, it was fishing a white soft plastic jerkbait and a topwater. I fished those things in conjunction with those active busting bass, and it worked amazing for me. And something similar, I'm telling you what, if you see busting bass and the pre-spawn is happening on your lake, give that a try. Go in there with a fluke and a topwater and watch what happens. And I bet you'll be able to catch a lot more bass than you ever thought you could. So there you have it. Some simple tips and some simple cheats for days when the water is packed with anglers during the pre-spawn. On those highly pressured days, if you can find that one small niche, that one small area that those bass are focused on, I'm telling you, you will catch bass after bass after bass, and it will lead to some of the most amazing days on the water you've ever had. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.